All right, grab your instrument and jump in the back of your parents' car because we're back for the My Mum Was Our Roadie podcast. There, I managed it. Episode 2, we had a bit of a break. Let me explain what happened. So we had episode 1, if you caught it, thank you. It starred the wonderful Jack Bevan as our first guest, the drummer of Foals, a good friend of mine from back in the day. We talked about being in a band when you're a teenager, starting out in music, working jobs, getting fired, getting hired, and how to replace a drummer without becoming public enemy number one. And thank you to Jack for coming on. But after that, I got a lot of responses. Hey, that was a great podcast. I love it. I can't wait for the next episode. Please give us more. And then what happened? I didn't make any more for 3 weeks because I couldn't get another guest. Haven't been able to lock anyone else down. So we've decided I'm going to do solo style. And as you can see behind me, the background has improved a little bit. Some people were saying great podcast, but the background was a bit worrying. It looked like you're in a hostage video. So we're in the kitchen now. I haven't managed to get any decorations yet, but we're on the way. I think it looks a lot better than my bedroom, which frankly looked like a teenager recording some sort of manifesto. So we're back, and I just wanted to talk about some of my bands that I've been in to give you a background on my history, which will help when we actually do get more guests in. We'll get to see a bit more about what they've done in relation to what I've done in my career. Okay, what I've got is some memorabilia. I do have a large collection of old stuff from when I was in bands. I couldn't find that, but we found a few things. And we're going to start off with some of these from the early days. First one, the first ever gig. So my band was called Hedroom. I'm going to post these on my Instagram, so we'll hold them up a little bit, but they'll also be on the Instagram, Mum Roadie Pod, for you to check out. This was our first gig ever on Millennium Eve in Postcombe, which is where I grew up. There you can see we've got the old Millennium hats on, and that is our original singer, Liz, who, frankly, was quite weird and insane, but she was the only person who could sing. 14-year-olds, it turns out, don't want to get on the mic generally and sing. So in our whole school, we had 300 students in my year. Chris was at a different school. There was a whole other group of kids he had access to. Sounds weird. Not one singer amongst the bunch, not anyone who were decent anyway. She was the only person available. She was a bit of a goth. She was American, and she had to have a special microphone because her voice was so quiet. She had to have a special microphone that was like a condenser microphone to lift her voice because she was so quiet. That wasn't the case with our next singer, Christian. So there we are in the corner of a Chinese restaurant that belonged to my mate Yip K. Well, his dad. Obviously, he wasn't 14 running his own Chinese restaurant in the middle of nowhere. That'd be absolutely mental. You can see Chris has a tom rack, which is a mad thing for a drummer. Basically, usually if you've got tom-toms, they're attached to the kick drum via small stands. Chris had a huge rack which was designed to have like 6 toms on it. It was the most 80s thing ever. And he had one. I don't think I've ever seen one since in person. I've seen them on clinics. Who's that drummer with all the tom-toms? I can't remember his name. Mad loads of toms. Chris had one when he was 14. It was insane. That was us. It was our first gig. We did a cover of Garbage. I'm Only Happy When It Rains. We did the Cardigans as well. Green Day, all the classics. So that was our first gig. So soon after that, well, we did these promotional shots before the gig. I'll throw this one up. This will go on the Instagram too. This is me, right? In probably the year 2000, I've got a Hawaiian shirt on, which I bought in America. I think it was $40. It was the most expensive thing I've ever bought at the time. I was very proud of it. I wore it all the time. Got my hair wet look gelled. Not that different from what it is now, to be fair, but wet look gelled. Very spotty. At the Patrick Eggle New York guitar, which was actually my first electric guitar, which we got for a bargain. Amazing. So check that out if you can. If you can't see this, if you're listening on audio, I'm standing in front of an entirely corkboard background. It looks like a notice board in a village hall, except it's the entirety of the background. You know, I was a good 6 foot at this point, And, it was a lot of corkboard. That was in our drummer's studio. So that was that. Now we're starting to see the whole thing come together, right? So this was Hedroom. Before we got our fifth member, Kiwi, on the saxophone, we had four of us. There's Christian. Now, Christian hasn't looked quite that athletic since. That was when he was about 16 and not 1 ounce of body fat on the man. Incredible. He's plumped out a little bit since then, but still looking great. He's got 3 kids. He's doing very well for himself. You can see he broke his arm. His wrist is in a cast, right? One day we had a gig. It was a huge gig. It was in the Sports and Arts Centre in Tame, right? Big deal. We were closing the show. All the kids were coming from the local area. It was going to be this massive thing. We were talking about the Chinner Village Hall gigs in the previous episode. Tame Sports and Arts Centre was even bigger than Chinner Village Hall. It was a huge room. And we got the call about 5 p.m. and we were ready for sound check. We're all there setting up equipment. Obviously, our singer is nowhere to be seen. He's skateboarding at the newly built skate park in Tame. We get the call, guys, I'm at A&E. I fractured my wrist. We were livid. Livid, I tell you. Livid that he would take such a risk on such an important day for the rest of us. And nobody really cared for his welfare, unfortunately. No one was thinking, oh, God, Christian, poor you. You broke your wrist. That sucked. We just thought, you're an idiot for skateboarding on a day like today. And we got pretty angry at him. But look, he's got the cast on. He's rocking out. This is in Wantage at a venue called The Swan, which was a classic toilet venue in the Oxfordshire area. I say toilet because they're dirty and they stink, right? It's more the case back in the day when you could still smoke inside. Everything stank of piss. That's the way it was. We got Ben Beams on the bass there with his kind of bird's eye maple looking Yamaha, which he didn't have for very long. Quickly got into jazz basses and then he was exclusive. I'm playing the PV Wolfgang, the Eddie Van Halen model, covered in absolutely rubbish skateboarding stickers. Toy Machine, Blind, Girl, Alien Workshop, all pristine stickers put on the same day. They weren't collected over time like a lot of these cool guys do. I put them all on one day, okay? Just to let you guys know. And there's Chris there at the back, not with his rack tom. Can you see there's no rack on that drum kit? Obviously not ours. Very nice though, nice sparkle finish. Again, apologies if you're listening to this on audio. I hope it's still entertaining for you. But please, if you can, if you're not driving or operating heavy machinery, please look at the Instagram, Roadie Pod, and check out these pictures. Here's a weird one, right? So take a look at this. There's me, 16 years old, I believe, maybe 15, 16, completely shaven head, right? So we had a gig at the Chinner Village. This is at Chinner Village Hall. This was our big headliner. I'm there operating my Mat amp, which is probably worth a couple of grand at this point before I completely beat the hell out of it for 10 years and more. This was a really nice amp we got for a couple of £100. They didn't know what it was. It's basically an orange amplifier, all valve from the early 70s. I was playing that bad boy. It was loud. That's the loudest amp I've ever experienced. It was serious. You never needed to put it up above 3. It was insane. Forget going to 11. You never would have lived to tell the tale, honestly. It was the loudest amp I've ever seen. Oh, it was so clean, and look at all the lights are working and all the knobs are on it. Oh, man, that's sad. I ruined that amp, but I got a lot out of it. There I am with my Kobe Bryant Lakers top gold series from Champion, the cheap one. Probably bought it like TJ Maxx in Florida. Got my Gap jeans on. Skate shoes by probably Etnies or DC. Very early 2000s. I'm doing some sort of feedback, obviously, on the amp with the guitar, ripping it, no doubt, ripping a solo. And my head is completely shaved bald. I look like an alien. Luckily, my head shape was pretty good at that time. I don't think it would be now. But I do remember a couple of days after doing that, I was walking along texting. Not very good at texting at this point. Texting wasn't really a thing. I'm texting, I bump into a lamppost, and I smashed my head just above the hairline, right? So if I'd have kept my hair, no one would have seen it. But as it was, because I had a shaved head, I was walking around with this enormous bump on my head for ages when I was 16, very self-conscious. So I don't remember who was playing at that gig. I will say this, though. Chinner Village Hall, if anyone was watching the previous episode with Jack, I got told by my friend Sean Turner, now renowned theatre director, who was present at the show. He think he actually competed with his band Thursdays of Vega. The winner was Tetsuo. Tom Bayer, Pete and Dave, I don't remember their surnames. Post-rock in the vein of Mogwai. Very good band, very ahead of their time. Didn't stay together. But they were the winners, apparently, according to... Which was a surprise, because they were from Hedroom, so they weren't very local. They were pretty local. But they were from different schools. But they did well. They were very good at the time, I remember. And named after, of course, the villain from the film Akira, the classic anime. So that's a few of Hedroom era. That was us. I've got the Superman tee on, obviously not filling that out. So we'll move on a little bit to Mean Poppaline era. Now, Mean Poppaline, when we were working together, this was an early drawing I did. You can see me over here with the long curly hair and the chin beard. That was the way I looked at then. Then we've got Tom Mills, formerly of this band, Public Body. He's also he's in Egyptian Blue right now. He's been in a ton of bands. He was even involved for a short time. Very talented musician, good friend of mine. Then we've got there Danny Maddock, got Danny Bass with his flat cap on. He no longer has any hair. He's got the skinhead now. Big lips. That was the way I drew him. And then Christian, obviously, over here. My good friend, who's there in Chicago now. This was the best drawing I've ever done. And this is the original that I did in probably 2006. And I've kept it because it's on a piece of lined paper, folded up, aged. Looks like someone's put tea bags on it. And I've kept it just because it was very special to me. And it still is. That I just doodled this in the studio of the guys. And we ended up putting it on the back cover of our CD, which I could dig out in another solo episode. I'll show you our CDs that we used to sell. And the CD was called Smash and Grab, and we just kind of copy and pasted a load of different images that we had on there, and including that picture, which we used as the picture on the thing, as you need a picture so everyone knows who you are. Mean Poppaline at the Concord 2. So we were based in Brighton. This was after I moved to Brighton in 2005. We started putting the band together very purposefully. And I believe there was still only 4 of us at this time. There ended up being 6 with the Horny Brassholes, Tom Beck and Rob Flynn. But at this point, it was just me, Danny, Tom and Christian. And this was our first big show. And we made this ourselves. It was a Star Trek themed cereal that we found on Google image search years and years ago. It says Kellogg's Mean Poppaline. I think it was Spock Snacks or something like that. Sugar Snaps or something like that. And you got Leonard Nimoy on the front there with a big bowl of cereal and a ray gun. And we're on the back. There's a picture of us performing at a venue called the Providence, which is now a co-op. Like most venues in this country have become. They've all gone to shit from noise complaints and money and all that kind of disgusting stuff. But this was a really fun venue. It was just a pub. It was a bar. It wasn't even a cool bar. It was kind of standard bar in Brighton, really, with Friday night people. But they put gigs on. And we played there. We played with the Cheddington Incident. We played with our friend Dave's bands, The Truths. They used to play. Bunch of people. Justice Force 5, my other band, would play. And there we are. At this gig, we wore dressing gowns. So you can see we're all wearing bathrobes, dressing gowns, except for Tom, who's obviously playing the drums. So it's a little bit hot for him to do that. He did have one when we walked on and he immediately took it off. But that's what we used to do. We used to dress occasionally in bathrobes. I've still got some of the robes. The last robes that we bought for our last gig, we bought these Chinese robes which had dragons on them and stuff, and I've still got it. We spent all of our money on clothes. We're idiots. We could have invested that money, could have made ourselves into a professional band, but no, we just bought clothes. So that's the Concord 2 gig. Our Concord 2 gig was pretty great. So I'll show you this at some point, but I have it. We got a bed sheet, right? Because we'd read about Motley Crue in the Dirt. They had this bed sheet that said Motley Crue on it. And in the story, it's covered in blood and like dirt and festering stuff. It's all pretty disgusting, actually. But we thought it was pretty cool to have a bed sheet as your backdrop. So we went outside and spray painted Mean Popeline on this bed sheet. And we spray painted a kid's drawing of a house with all of us standing in front of it. It looked so stupid, but we hung that behind us in the Concorde 2, 600 capacity venue where serious bands play. I went to see the Melvins there, White Denim, countless bands, Battles, loads of cool bands. And we put a bed sheet on the back, and then we bought these 6-7 foot tall plastic plants that we also put on the stage. Again, just throwing money away to make ourselves look silly. We had these ridiculous costumes. Obviously, we always shopped in vintage shops, charity shops. We had these mismatching outfits that were insane. And we also bought nappies, diapers, kids, things that you, whatever you call them, they're for holding shit for babies. And we bought a pack of them and we gave them out on the door. We gave them out to people saying, you're going to need these. When you see us, you're going to shit your pants. That was our message to the crowd. So that was really, we were fun. We were a fun bunch. I only started doing comedy when I was 30. I'm a comedian now. But there was no serious band I was ever in. I was never in a band where we thought, oh, we're going to take this seriously and be sincere. Which brings me to the next one. So this was running about the same time as Mean Popeline, about 2006 to 2010, 11. We split up. Well, Mean Popeline went a bit longer, but Justice Force 5 was my other band. So basically this band started with all my other best mates that weren't in Mean Popeline. So we had myself, Eddie Goatman, aka Eddie the Goat Boy, who was in a few great bands back then, Brown Corduroy Express, and I can't remember what the other one's called, but it'll come to me. Alex McCready, who I went to school with, he was in Lament, the rival band, and so was Dave Vine. And then we had Dave Neal, who was in Rooster and The Truths, and he's played with Diana Vickers and quite a few other great acts. And then we have Dave Middleton as well, Dave Rave, who was just our friend, who wasn't a musician at all. But he had the ideas. He was the ideas man. So our band was a group of superheroes. That is it. That's the pitch. It's a band, but we're superheroes. A bit like the Aquabats. A couple of other bands have kind of done it. We're not talking Superman, Batman, any of those ones. We made our own characters, which I will hopefully go through in more detail. I don't want to go into that right now. But we made our own superheroes. We had our own backstory. And we had our own artwork. Another reason, another way that my bands let go of so much money was we used to need to get cartoons and comics drawn all the time for this band. So we ended up spending quite a bit of money on comics. This was the first one we got done. And honestly, the guy who did it, I remember him being a bit of a loose cannon, and we never worked with him again. But this drawing that he did was fantastic. It still looks great to this day. It encapsulated the characters that we had perfectly, and it was just so good. And I just managed to pick this up the other day. I'm so glad I kept it. It was these flyers that we would put out, and on the back it's just got "Come and see the world's best superhero rock band," and then a blank space that we would write in the gig. So we were trying to save that money as well. At myspace.com/the Justice Force 5. See, this is what we're talking about right now. MySpace. We had a MySpace. This was back in the day. Another band where we wore costumes. We had these costumes, a cow head. We had capes. We had spandex. We had the whole thing. It was pretty crazy. But yeah, we had these flyers that we used to hand out. And we used to do some great gigs. And one such gig was this. This is the last thing I'm going to show you. This is a ticket to see Superheroes Rock, which was our own gig at the Coalition in Brighton. The Coalition, kind of a venue. You don't really have bands playing there. We played a battle of the bands there in Mean Popeline, and Justice Force 5 thought this would be a good place to do something. We knew the people because we used to DJ there. Me and a few of the other guys used to DJ in Brighton. We DJ'd at the Coalition, so we knew them, and they put us on. And we wanted to do like a club night EP launch. So we had our EP. It was called Save the World. I don't think I have any copies of that, but it came with a comic book. And we had this big show, £5 entry, including a free CD and entry to the club after. That's good value. That's really good value. And I believe at this one, it says with guests Furion and Los Mendozas. Los Mendozas were a Lucha Libre wrestling themed act, if I remember rightly, because one of our characters, El Vampiro Diablo, was a Lucha Libre wrestler, also a vampire. So we had to kind of tie that in. And a band called Furion, who I do not remember. I will try and look them up as we go, but I don't remember Furion. I think we also had a band called the Half Sisters. Oh yeah, Furion. They were like a metal band. They're still around. UK's best new metal band. Yeah. 2015? Maybe they're not still around. Maybe they're not still around. I'm going to check their website. It's still there. Woodstock video footage, August 2015. Woodstock Festival, Poland. All right, guys. Sure. Woodstock Festival, Poland, 2015. Yeah, we played Woodstock. It was a massively great experience, man, in Poland in 2015. 50 years after the original festival happened. 48 years. Well, actually, it's 46 years. Anyway, Furion played, who lasted a bit longer than we did, to be fair to them. There was also, we had a guy called MC Cashback, who's still around, still doing stuff. He does all food-based rap stuff. He's actually really great. Angus, check him out. So he opened for us. He's still in Brighton, still does a lot of art. He's actually a visual artist as well. And we still kind of, I haven't seen him for a while, but I bumped into him when I was in Brighton a couple of years ago. He's still one of those Brighton characters on the scene. He was emceeing and kind of running the whole show for us. And we had a group called the Half Sisters, and they played with us. There was 3 girls, Isadora, and I can't remember the other one. She went out with my mate. I really fancied Isadora. Didn't happen. Probably for the best. But they came and played ukuleles with us. And we had a supervillain come on stage. We had fake blood. We had stuff coming down from the ceilings. It was this event. It was this huge thing. And it was it was a great night, actually. It was really great. And anybody who was around from Brighton at the time, who was available, who was at the show on the 21st of February that must be 2006 or 7. No, 2007 it must be. If you were around 21st of February 2007 at the Coalition, comment on this stuff. Send me a message on Instagram. I want to hear from you because I've got a terrible memory and I cannot recall anything. But that was just a little run through of some memorabilia. That was all very personal to me. I'm going to find my other memorabilia at some point, and if I can't get another guest, I'm going to do some more stuff that's going to open up some more interest about other bands that were around at the time, back in the day. And I'm also going to add a playlist of all of the bands that I can find that we've mentioned over the past couple of episodes, and I'm going to add to that as we go. It's probably going to be a YouTube playlist because Spotify might not have anything from some of these bands, but we're going to try our best. Thank you for tuning in, and if you know somebody who was a musician at this time and is still kind of around in some capacity and can talk, let them know, let me know, and we'll get them involved because we need guests, basically, is what I'm saying. So take care. Signing off. Thank you so much. I've been Alex. Peace out.